There you go.
All right, welcome ladies to our training on project and event management. First off, happy Thanksgiving, that's next week. So hopefully you all have shortened weeks. I know we do, so. So project and event management, hopefully you'll be able to use this. A lot of you as Vistas are already planning events, but this could definitely be used for after your Vista year if you're working at a nonprofit to do something a little bit bigger. So we just included the event planner slide to just for a little giggles about down in the corner. What you actually do is just about putting out fires for when everything goes wrong with the event you planned. Through the presentation, we're hoping that you'll be able to recognize what a successful event looks like or what the successful project looks like. Importance of identifying that community need, valuing your volunteers and your partnerships, and then the importance of excellent organization. So just first, you got to assess the community, then you can enter your planning stage, and then you have to do your implementation and follow up. So when it comes time to the right approach, you first need to focus on the needs of the community. Can everyone hear me okay? First off, I just want to make sure.
Yep.
Sorry, I should have checked that beforehand. Ask questions about, is there a problem that needs to be addressed within your community, whether it's on your campus or within your city? Is it already being addressed by other organizations? Is there ways that you can do it differently or just enhance what's already being done? This should help you to reach a goal for your project or event. So your goal can be things like raising awareness, or you want to raise money for an event, or you just want to really build community engagement, those sort of things. So the goal of your project would be looking at your community need and then having a response to meet that so you can meet your goals. You also want to make sure that your activity is attainable in general. Nonprofits and Vistas alike, or higher ed, they have very limited resources, and so you want to make sure that you are actually capable of having a successful event. It's better to have a little event that's successful rather than a huge event that just flops completely. An example that we have here for just coming about different approaches is a Vista realized that a campus population was not informed about bone marrow matching. So he or she decided that the best way to do this would be to bring professional organization to the school through a Be the Match campaign. This organization was very well informed on bone marrow transplant and had a lot of resources, so it was something to connect into. So the community need was the awareness for bone marrow matching, and then just the number of donors. The response was bringing that campaign specialist to the campus. The goal then was met by making greater awareness and a higher number of donors in that community. And then it was also had obtainable goals because that person might not known a lot about bone marrow matching, but they brought in someone that was willing to come in and do it for free, so they didn't have to worry about funding, that sort of thing. Anything you wanted to add?
No,
Okay.
I'll jump in.
All right. So you want to do some analysis of your goals and of your projects. Asking questions like, what do we need to achieve and why? What are the solutions, or what solutions do we have already? What are the costs, benefits, risk, and other implications of this project that you want to have? And then how long will it take? How much will it cost? They're just different questions that you really have to think about when you're preparing your project or event. However, we do have examples of tools that can help you reach this decision about analyzing your project. So do you want to?
Yeah, so some tools you can look for that are helpful. Probably you've all heard of doing a SWOT analysis, and that's really strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and just helps to think. That can help to surface some of the things that you might not be thinking about going into an event. So that kind of analysis can apply to an organization as a whole, or a specific event, like in Katie's example with the bone marrow match program, thinking about what might hinder people from participating, what other events are going on, what other things are happening, just thinking about all the things that could hinder the success of your event, and also along the lines of strengths and opportunities, what you're building on, opportunities for partners, that kind of thing. And that's where I think some of these other tools come in as well. So critical path analysis, did you put that one in there?
No.
I did?
Yep.
Oh, cool. Yep, okay. So, so again, thinking about the tasks you need to do, and we'll talk a little bit more about how to kind of back up from the actual event itself and think about all the tasks that would lead up to that thing. So if I want to have this event at this time and this day with this many people and this outcome, you're able to think about the path that would get you there and really link the tasks you need to do in order to get there. Stakeholder mapping, I think, is also really important because you want to make sure you're networking with everybody that could be interested in and helpful to the event, making sure you're not duplicating efforts. I think that's a really important part of that. And then I also think just making sure everyone's at the table who should be. So if you're planning a bone marrow match event and there is a leukemia group on campus or something related, you want to make sure you're making connections to the different people and organizations, because what happens all the time is that, in nonprofits and in higher ed, is that people just go out and do their own thing, don't take the time to do that analysis. They end up with either an unsuccessful event because they don't have the buy-in from people who need to be involved, or doing something that others see as duplicative of what they're doing and therefore competition, and therefore they might actually undermine your efforts. So thinking about who all would be interested in those same issues and at least reaching out, not that everybody's going to partner with you or that makes sense, but having done that outreach and at least touch base with them, I think is an important step. And then Katie linked to a community needs assessment, and that's a good process to go to too, I think. And some of this will apply as you guys are working with students, just helping them think through not just this is what I want to do, but what is the community you're talking about working with actually need you to do, and really have taken the time to do that.
So after you've chosen that event, you really need to start implementing the whole planning part. A project or an event just doesn't happen overnight. Some tips to just get it started is just that planning requires a lot of organization and a lot of attention to detail. I hope as Vistas you've already kind of seen this and started picking up some different skills for that attention to detail. Different little things, that could be taken into consideration is just creating a timeline right off the bat and a project map so that you can see the end project and have it go a little bit smoother. Recording details like your emails or taking notes during meetings or phone calls so that you know what's going on 6 months down the road and you don't forget what your conversations were about. And then continuously communication between those volunteers, the attendees, or your partners. You don't want something to drop just because you've stopped communicating with others. Another part to consider is the audience for this project. So it could also be the people, the beneficiaries that you will be interacting with. But they're broken into two different areas. So you have the volunteers. So you need to attract and retain the right kind of volunteers for your event. But you also need to, attract the right kind of attendees. Just be thinking about who you want to come to your events and who you want your beneficiaries to be. For your timeline and project map, it's always good to begin with the end in mind. So thinking about those goals and then working backwards from there. So you have, your short term, your long term, which would be very vague, but you have different things in mind. And then short term and like the day of the event will be much more detailed for your project map or your timeline with more instructions on what should be done. Also, something to keep in mind is that a schedule does not end when the project ends or when the event is finished. You have other things that you need to do after the event. follow-up things. So I will be emailing out this PowerPoint, and I've clicked links to like task lists and project mapping worksheets. Just they take you through the process of trying to create task lists so that you can prepare them for your next event. Sorry, that one is a difficult word for me to say. An example of a long-term schedule or project map would be if you have a huge event in April, you want it to be in the spring semester, so you say want it in April, and then you start working backwards from there. So 1 week before, you want 700 volunteers signed up. Very optimistic event. 3 weeks before, you will release the sign up. 4 weeks, you want so many team captains. 4 months. And what could you be doing right now? You could be researching what this project looked like last year and what is required, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Here's an example of before I said I had a link to the project task list. This is just an example of what that sheet looks like. So just different things that would need to get done, but then it also prioritizes them, marks down how much time would be required, maybe how many volunteers, just so you can see the overall what might be needed.
And real quick, so two things. Do you have Trello? Pull up Trello real quick. So 2 things on this. One is I think the research phase at the beginning is really important. And if it's an event that's happened before, or if you know people who have planned something similar, you're really talking to those people and trying to get those lessons learned is often a step that's skipped. But it's really important because people have learned things doing it before. They can help you not make the same mistakes. And those people don't always go to the trouble of writing that down or going out of their way to tell you. So just finding those key folks who have done it before that you can talk to and just say, what would you have done differently? What was really good? And just try to avoid repeating mistakes. And then Katie has the task list, but we also use an online system called Trello for project and event management. Do you want to just pull it up real quick?
Yeah. Do you know how to switch screens though?
Just go do new share. Yeah, now you pull it up. So this is an example of just a way to do it electronically that I really like. It's not working. You might need to stop and then do a new one.
Hi, everybody, again.
Hello.
Yeah.
I just wasn't clicking when I wanted it to be.
Okay, that's not working. Yeah, I don't know why it's not working. That's okay though. You can,
Well, Trello, like she says, we have been using it, and I've enjoyed it a lot because it helps.
Yeah. For some reason it's not working. That's okay. You guys can check it out. Just Trello.com, and there's free versions. And basically it just allows you to make boards with lists, and we tend to organize things around, what needs to happen this week, what needs to happen next month, what needs to happen for the end of the year, just so you can keep those kind of longer term things on your radar and keep moving them up as they get closer or as parts of them need to happen. I think another thing that I see a lot is that people, it's super easy to get bogged down day to day in what needs to happen that day, and then kind of never end up thinking about those longer term things. And then those longer term things come up, and then you're fighting that fire, and it's just fire after fire after fire. And I think by keeping those longer term things on your to-do list, you can avoid that a little bit. So that's a tool you guys can check out. And it allows you to collaborate with other people too. So you can share boards with people so that you can kind of see who's doing what, and keep track of things that way too, which helps. So we use that a lot in the office.
Mm-hmm. I really like it because we can assign tasks to individual people and then put due dates on them. And you can also communicate between the tasks. Like if you add notes or documents to a certain task that's been assigned to you, you can let other people know. So I have enjoyed that. I've enjoyed that part of it. So Trello.com.
Okay.
Another important part of any project is finding your volunteers. So volunteers definitely can help with that workload and help you create a much larger project than what you could accomplish on your own. That's saying that many hands make a light load. However, there is a reverse, that too many hands in the kitchen can just lead to bad cooking. I put burnt toast there mainly because I couldn't remember the rest of that saying, but I think you guys got the gist for that one. So you just basically, you need to find the right amounts. I think when you create that task list, it could definitely help because you can understand kind of how many volunteers you would actually need, whether it's at the day of the event or the end of that project, or if it's with your planning committee, that sort of thing. Find a few volunteers that will take on leadership parts of your project. You know, you want to entice them and bring them into your event for the right causes, of course. But don't forget to give them the credit and recognition that they deserve. You can definitely start recruiting volunteers through popular recruiting sites that are either on campuses or within the community, and tap into different interest groups. So don't just look to your friends or just to the colleagues that happen to be in your office. Expand out a little bit when you're trying to find those volunteers. And always remember to just look for them, asking personally, or going to the college if you need college volunteers. Contact those different student groups. We're getting a few chat here, a few pieces of chat. Are you,
should we be seeing the slideshow or the Trello page?
Are you seeing the Trello page?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hey, guys.
I was like, you sounded like you're reading off the PowerPoint, and I was like,
Well, thanks for mentioning it. I'll push it back the other way. We thought you guys couldn't see Trello, so that would be
Gotcha.
I think the two screens is messing you up.
Can you guys see a PowerPoint now?
I see your faces.
I see faces too.
What about now?
It's
Yay! Thanks, work.
Okay. All right. I heard yays, so. Well, that was just about volunteering, so. Now when you actually have your volunteer base, you need to establish your main volunteers versus those volunteers that would be at the project or at the event. You know, they serve two different purposes. When you do have your group of main volunteers, the ones that are going to help you with planning the event, if you do need the help, you should start scheduling meetings to get the program off the ground. And one way to make sure that things are getting done or that they continue to move forward is to make everyone accountable for the event. And you can do this by establishing rules or tasks early on. You know, things like a publicity coordinator or a volunteer manager, someone that's in charge of the thank yous. You know, they can be basic or they can be precise, but once you start handing out tasks with goals and deadlines, it makes other people accountable so that you can keep the project moving. When you are working with your volunteers, make sure they're completely informed on details and especially of the goals of, you know, your project. You don't want them just blindly working for you. If they understand the goals, they'll be much more committed to your project, but also understand things or promote it on their own. Another thing to just consider is that volunteers, they need orientations and training, especially those volunteers that will be at a larger event. You want to make sure they also know what's going on. Another important part of having your event is creating that budget. So we have different little things that you can use. Vista Campus has a lot of budget templates you can easily pull up. Sorry. Emily pulled up this budget. Do you know where you got it, or did you just Google a budget?
Yeah, I mean, I just Googled event budgets, so it's not hard to find good examples. But I think the important thing is taking the time to do it and to really set goals around sponsorship if you're trying to have a revenue neutral event or even raise money, that kind of thing.
So that leads us into revenue. So you can obtain funding, projects, and or services for your project in several ways. You know, you don't have to ask straight for cash or you have a goal of just raising cash. So you can get your funding through grants, gifts, in-kind donations. They're just great ways to get support from individuals or corporations. If you are having an event, you could always think about charging like an admission price or something else to help cover some of those costs that would be at whatever you're planning. Go out and contact your businesses in your neighborhood or those companies or organizations. They may that already have a connection to your clients or to your mission. Those you should be reaching out to first. However, don't be afraid to just be creative. Go out into the community and think a little bit differently than just cash. You know, a church or a business, they can offer you meeting space if you don't have any where you're currently working. Colleges, they can really help with like assessing the community or doing research. Foundations, they can offer, you know, staff that's needed to oversee a project. Neighborhood associations, they can really, you know, tap into that community outreach. So just think about different areas of revenue. Emily also mentioned sponsorships. So if it does come time that you want to have an event and it is quite larger, you can ask that business and they can offer, you know, cash if they want to in exchange for something, or they can offer like printing for your flyers for your events. Do you have other examples that are much better?
Well, I would, as you're planning an event, anything you're putting on the budget as an expense, I would consider whether there's someone you can ask first to donate all or part of it or a discount or something along those lines. I would think through all of that before you pay for anything. And then around more formal sponsorship, there are lots of great examples online, but you're going to want to come up with a sponsorship framework. So you want to have different levels so that people have options. Think about, you know, how much money you need to raise overall. So maybe if it's a smaller event, you maybe want to have levels at $250, $500, that kind of thing. And then think about what the different packages are. What do they get out of that at those different sponsorship levels? And usually that's greater levels of publicity. So, you know, the smaller sponsorship might only get a mention in the event program, but the bigger sponsors are going to be in a PowerPoint or are going to be able to have flyers and handouts or something along those lines. Just thinking through those different levels of publicity that you can offer for different levels of sponsorship can help entice people to give in larger amounts as well.
Then we also want to talk about just partnerships in general with the community. So yeah, definitely look out into your community for those partnerships. Everyone loves partnerships. And when we mean everyone, I'm talking about grant providers and city officials and other organizations and the newspapers, and make your event a little more enticing. However, those partnerships, they need to make sense. They have to have aligned missions or similar goals. These partnerships aren't necessarily based on money. However, they definitely can be. But partnerships help to create a much larger event, to get the word out more. You might reach more clients, I guess you could say, with that. An example I had was an event that I personally hosted with an Oxfam Hunger Banquet. Hey, Katrina. The Oxfam Hunger Banquet, I looked out to the Pella community because I knew that community members were going to be coming to this banquet. And I reached out to the Pella Art Center because I was I needed bowls created, and they were looking for a way to get their name out. And so we came to an agreement that they would make bowls for this hunger banquet so people would have a souvenir to take home. After that partnership, you know, they were able to put Pella Art Center on everything, and then we gave them a shout out, and then we also mentioned that they were having classes, welcome to the community, that sort of thing. So partnerships are great. Do you have an example of partnership you want to mention there?
No, not in particular, but I think it is thinking about what they want to get for it and not just what you want to get, and really starting from that place. So whether you're approaching a business or another nonprofit or anything like that, starting with the focus on what they will get out of it is where you want to start rather than what you need.
Yeah, good point. When you do have a project, there's always key pathways for communication. Here on the slide, there's always a chain of command, and you should follow it if you want things to go smoothly for you. to make sure that you are following this chain of command, it's always good to look to mentors or someone who has already done a large project or event, because they might know where to go, so you don't have to do so much research. If you are hosting something, you need to look, do you need city permits if it's outside? Do you need to know the certain hours that a band is allowed to play, for instance, at the city park? Do waivers need to be signed if it's an event that's involving physical labor or going out into the community? If you're hosting an event on a campus, and maybe, if you're going to host, you want to host an event on a campus, you definitely need to know who to ask for permission. Even if for those that do work on campuses, you might not always know where to go for certain events. So you need to ask around, but most importantly, try to find someone that might know the answer already and they can help you through that process, just so you're not stepping on anybody's toes or getting in the way. We have examples of bad communication. Just if a student was hosting an event on a college and they invited individuals. However, they said that they were representing a different department, but they didn't let that department know, or even facilities know. This led to miscommunication just because consent forms weren't signed for the students that were coming. So you get into legal problems there. There wasn't space reserved, so nobody knew they were coming. It just led to confused people. However, example of better communication, maybe not the greatest, but better communication would be, this is also a student, was in charge of hosting a picnic for volunteer appreciation dinner. The student decided that he or she wanted it to be outside at a local park, but was told that maybe she should figure out if there was permits that were needed. So after a quick Google search and calling the city, it was discovered that there was payment that was required to have an event, a public event outside at a city park. So after these steps were being followed, people were happier because there wasn't anyone stepping on toes, that sort of thing. Successful projects also survive off advertisement. So you need to communicate through a variety of venues. So if you want a newspaper to, write up something about your event, inform them early before the event, or if it's a project, give them a lot of details so they can come in. You can even make it easier by writing a press release. I put a link in the PowerPoint because Vista Campus has a how to write a press release with templates and step-by-steps and even a video instruction that's really great. That talks about the different steps for that. Just makes it way easier on them because they don't have to do any work, not much work. You also want to invite reporters to what you're doing. They have the big fancy cameras and they can really get it out into the community and to let them know what good work and what impact you're having. Don't be afraid to contact, school papers and media outlets because they're looking for things to communicate about as well. So don't underestimate their capabilities. Reach out to local organizations because they have, good connections with the community. Key social media sites, Facebook and Twitter, don't underestimate them either. Traditional flyers and advertisements, and just word of mouth. Word of mouth can go a long way. However, don't forget to, when you have your planning committee, however big it is, even if it's just yourself, make sure there's one person that's designated as the media campaign, just so people know who to contact, when to contact them, and different information doesn't get mixed up. Anything more?
Go ahead, because I have a couple of things I want to say, but I think they'll fit maybe a little later.
Okay. We also put some different things about the visualization of your advertising. Make sure you're using consistent designs that are pleasing to the eye, having that clear font or that clear message, imagery that isn't too overpowering. If you have this consistent image, then when people see things, they're reminded of your events or reminded of your logo, so they know what's going on, they know who's hosting it, when it is, that sort of thing. Make sure every detail is correct. If you have one bad posting, someone can read it, then you'll get, different people coming at different times. Use logos whenever possible. This will definitely help with your partnerships, help with your own organization, just to get that consistent design on there. If you are not an artistic person, definitely consider outsourcing. This could be as simple as asking a friend or a colleague, or even hosting a contest. Many Microsoft things even have basic templates for posters. Just keep it in mind that you can outsource if you do not have that artistic ability to create something.
Well, and we've also been using canva.com, canva.com, which has a lot of really, really good templates and makes it really easy. And I think that's because I'm not artistic at all, and I like that one. It helps.
Yeah, we have been using Canva pretty much on a daily basis, I think. So when it comes time for the actual big day, hopefully if you have, dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's, you won't have to be putting out too many fires, although contingency plans are always needed. Just remember, having that schedule made is also key. Making sure people are where they need to be, when they need to be there, that sort of thing. This is an example of an event we'll be hosting later in the year. We just have everything broken out to, little time slots and who should be there, that sort of thing. For your day of event, make sure everyone has clear instructions that have been given multiple times. This counts for your volunteers, it counts for the attendees, it counts for your partners. Just clear instructions that are easy to find, and most likely they'll need to be given multiple times, just in different areas as well. Don't forget to thank those volunteers, those partners and guests that are coming. You may have been putting in a lot of work, but they have helped you along the way, so you want to make sure they feel appreciated. If it is an event that requires waivers or consent forms, that sort of thing, make sure you are gathering them. And then try to follow your schedule. If you have a schedule that's well detailed, you should have a good contingency plan in there as well, because unexpected things will happen. It's inevitable. It just happens. And then ensure your partners, speakers, special guests, that they're comfortable, that sort of thing. If, they're bringing a lot to this event, you want to make sure that they want to come back or have a good report to give out to other people if it is like a speaker, that sort of thing. Now,
well, before we get to after the event, I had a couple things that I've just learned from doing events, especially from doing political events. So just in thinking about setting up your room and how many people are going to come, my rule of thumb is if people are paying to register, you'll get about 95% of the people who pay to register. If people are registering, but it's free, you'll probably get more like 75%. If people aren't registering at all, and maybe it's just like Facebook, I would cut it in half. If you have a Facebook event and people are saying they're coming on a Facebook event, you will not get more than 50% of those people to actually show up. So that helps you to plan around it, because I think for a lot of events, and it depends, sometimes for volunteer events it's not as important, but you don't want the room to feel really big with not very many people in it. You don't want it to feel like no one showed up. I think one of the rules of thumb for political events for me was always, you want to be at the last minute having to pull chairs from the back of the room and make more space for people and just make it feel like there's so much energy and enthusiasm and more people showed up than you were expecting, and oh my gosh, and even if that's not the case. So if you have 200 people on Facebook saying that they're coming, do not have 200 chairs set out for all of those people. Make the space much smaller and have a contingency plan to kind of build it out quickly if more people do come. But no one likes being in a room and feeling like you're at something where people didn't show up and it's not very exciting and it's not very interesting, and the room is much bigger than the number of people there.
Yeah, that's a good point. So after your event, if you remember, we said there was other follow-up things that needed to be done. So just like on the logistical side, you should consider about what are the things that need to be returned? Does the event space need to be cleaned? Have you thanked those volunteers that were there? Those are little things, but it could give you a good relationship with whoever the venue is with. So if you are hosting at a school, for instance, and you make sure that everything is returned in its right place and the event space is cleaned up, they may be more willing to allow you to come back or come back at a discounted price, that sort of thing. Just keeping those good relationships. You also want to make sure you recognize the efforts of those volunteers and partners, donors, etc. Through thank you cards or other forms of gratitude. You want them to also be coming back to your event or your project. After the event, you want to make sure that you are evaluating. So develop a tool that allows you to get feedback from your attendees and volunteers, your partners, that sort of thing. Make sure you do it in advance, so you can either release it at your event or send it out, a few days afterwards, so that the event is fresh on their mind and they can give you back that information, that feedback. You want to collect and share the information on the results and the impact of your event as well, so that when you do, write a blog post about it, or you have someone interview about it, you can say, oh, we were able to raise this much money and we affected this many families, just so you're able to have tangible results. You also want to look at those results of your events, whether they were good or bad, and then debrief with your key players, with your partnerships or with, your planning partners. This could lead to reflecting on your events. So compiling those notes carefully with your do's and don'ts, potential partners for next year, suggestions on how to make it better. This could be used for the next person that might take over your project, or if you want to do it again. But you could also take this on for just even a completely different project. You can see what it's like to rent space from this company, or you could see what it's like to use this catering thing, that sort of thing. Keeping those notes will allow you to get better at creating these different projects or events. Anything you wanted to add about evaluation or reflecting and stuff?
No, I think for evaluation, actually writing it down and doing the analysis is the key thing. So if you hand out or send out an evaluation to people who attend, analyze it. Enter the numbers, run the numbers, look at what that means and what you might change in the future based on that and that kind of thing, or what you can say the results are of the event. And definitely write down as you're going in the planning and, right after the event, what you would do differently in the future. And because you will think that you'll think that was a big enough deal that I'll remember to do it differently next year, but you will not remember. So writing down all those things to keep notes so that when it comes time to start planning the next time, you've already written down what you decided last year to do differently.
So here's a few little jokes to get you through the rest of this Friday, just so you know. But you can see them later as well. A lot of the things that were put into this PowerPoint was through my personal experience and Emily's personal experience. But I also went through different trainings that were available on Vista Campus to really beef it up. That was keys to success, colon events, and then using volunteers for event planning. I'll make sure to send those links on to you so you have them, but they were interactive trainings where you have quizzes and things at the end. So they were very helpful. So I'll end our screen sharing right now. So hello, everybody. So did anyone have any questions about the training? Anything pop up?
I don't know if it was necessarily a question, but something that I've come across so far is the point you were making about kind of including everyone that could be interested or collaborating, because obviously working on a college campus, there's so many different departments and people, but they all work together towards the same goal. So we've actually been able to overlap a lot more than I think we ever have here. So I think utilizing that tool is really important.
Have you also been utilizing different campuses, Katrina? Or not campuses, different Christina.
You keep calling her Katrina.
No, lots of people lately have been calling me Katrina, and I'm not sure why. But, you know, whatever. The utilizing different parts of campus, is that what your question was?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I'm currently getting ready for a food drive that we're going to hold after Thanksgiving break is over. And I contacted the DOR to see if that'd be okay if we did it through them. And then they connected me with the National Residence Hall Honor Association. And they needed a service project. And so they're like, yeah, we'd love to help with this. And I've worked with the Volunteer Center of the Cedar Valley, which has an office on campus. And then the Student and Leadership Committee on helping them fill out the MLK Day of Service grant. So I've been able to go to lots of different parts of campus to help get stuff planned.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. I have another question. So okay. Can you guys share with me an example of a successful event or unsuccessful event or a project that you've been part of, either as a volunteer or as the actual leader of this project?
Well, I hate to bring up the example again, but I just hosted the Oxfam Hunger Banquet on Tuesday. And it just, I mean, it went really well. We had like 90 students show up. I don't think I've ever been a part of an event like that, either here or with students involved. But works really well was you could tap into our ICAP students because they want the hours and whatnot for both training and just direct service because they were able to help me with X, Y to Z. But then using our student workers and other students that are just interested in service. But it worked really well because I had great notes from Katie and past 3 years of Vistas here. So it is really crucial to write down notes because it was good to know what worked and what didn't work. So
thank you.
Yay.
Christina, do you have
events? Well, when I was just getting started in this, we wanted to do something for the 9/11 Day of Service. And we tried getting a lot of different organizations and stuff involved, but there wasn't really a lot of time between when I started and the actual day of service. So looking at that as a learning process would be to make sure that we have set up at least a month, preferably more beforehand. Just a couple weeks wasn't nearly enough time to get the publicity and the people needed to really have a good impact.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So Marlu has also posted something about an event she's hosting. So at Southeast Polk, which is a high school that's in the Des Moines area, she hosted a college application campaign, and it was this last October. Counselors were very engaged and collaborative. We had close to 40 students and families attend this event. What made it successful definitely was working backwards, like the example that I gave during the slideshow. So she liked doing the whole working backwards thing, and she thinks it helped make her event successful.
I think that's my number one thing that I even think a lot of people who've been working for a long time still don't do very well is just really thinking through, like you said, Chris. So somebody maybe will come to you, Christina, on, October 20th and say, let's have a great 9/11 Day of Service event. And I'm always in my head going, okay, but if we want to have an event on that day, then we needed to have done this by this day, and we needed to have done this by this day, and just always backing it up and saying like, this is how things work that you have to plan out from, and with people's schedules and that kind of thing. And I think a six weeks is about, and maybe it's different for some kinds of events, but 6 weeks I think is when you definitely should be ready to start promoting an event. You have all the details and you can start telling people when and where to be and that kind of thing.
How many of you believe that you will be, planning larger projects post your Vista year?
Yes.
Yep. Most likely.
And then do you feel that working as a Vista is helping you prepare for this though?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely say so, just with having Julianne as my supervisor and the events she's done in the past, and then having her mentor me as I'm going through and planning new events and giving me suggestions. And then we're working on, we wanted to hold an event in the spring, but we're going to have it in the fall instead, and just figuring out that it's okay to move things around and how to get all that big stuff taken care of so that it's successful and at a good time instead of just this awkward event at this awkward time.
Okay, Marlu also added to hers. She just also said, I was able to work with counselors to make sure that we had everything set up for the date 1 week before. Students made their commitments to attend the event. So that was just back to her planning from backwards. She wanted to make sure that everything was set up before the event in case things went wrong. So that was great for contingency plan. For the future, this is Marlu speaking, not me, just so you know. I am part of the fundraising committee for the board of directors for the Latina mentorship program. Everything that I have learned during Vista has helped me with planning events, fundraising, everything. Thank you, Marlu, for sharing. Is there anything else you guys would like to share about your event planning experience or just project management? Marlu would like to share that we had our first house party fundraiser this Sunday in Ames. Did the fundraiser go well, Marlu?
I think have. Well, render.
Oh, sorry. Never mind.
I think it is. Maybe it's in the future. Our lights turn off on us if we don't move enough. All right.
Is there anything else you want to add?
No, it's good.
All right. Thank you guys for turning out. I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving.
You too. Travel
You're
safe if you're
looking
going
for
somewhere.
an email with me, and I'll have those resources that go along with this project meeting.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Thank you for the resources, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
pulled a couple of them up on my work computer and they look awesome.
All right. Have a good day.
Thanks.